Welcome back. Now we are going to continue. During the time of the stop recording, we joined the machine to the network called test.com, and the machine name is MBAM server. We are currently remoted into the server through the DCA, through the DC server. Now, what we want to do now is we want to install the roles. The first role we're going to install is File Services. And then we want to install IIS. Now you have to remember that MBAM is pretty much a web application, and that's the main reason for IIS, because you're pretty much going to be hosting a website on the machine. Alright, we're going to hit next. Then we're going to hit next again, and then here are the IIS defaults. We want to make sure all these are selected, and we want to make sure ASP.NET is selected, and then select Add Required Roles. We're going to check over it, make sure that's correct, and it seems like it is. And we want to make sure Windows authentication is selected. And I believe that's it. You want to select next, and then next, and then file server is just file server, and then next, and then install. Look at that beta roll. Go ahead and pause it. We actually forgot one thing, or I actually forgot one thing my buddy Angelo pointed out. Ain't that right?
That's correct.
We forgot to put a check mark in IIS Manager Scripts, and this pretty much tells you what it's for, providing control in IIS 7. So I'm going to hit check, next, and then install. Alright, now we have all the roles installed. Congratulations. Next step is to install features. Now, we have some particular features that we need to have installed, and one major one, of course, is the group policy features. And the only reason you want to install that, because of course, you already have group policy running your DC, but you still want to compare it when you log into the server to make sure everything is okay. So, what we want to do is highlight features, and then you want to go to Add, and you want to go down to Group Policy Management, so which pretty much is a snap-in, and you also want to add. So we have Group Policy Management, and one key, big key, is of course .NET Framework 3.5.1, and that's pretty much what the web application runs off of. So you want to make sure that's checked, and then hit Add Required Features. And that should automatically check WCF activation, HTTP activation, non-HTTP activation. Whew. That's a lot. And we want to make sure we place a check mark in Alright, what you want to do now is make sure you go down, after you expand the remote server administration tools, you want to go down to where it says feature administration tools, expand that, and you want to place a check mark into this one right here. This will allow you to see the BitLocker tab in AD. This must be checked or you will not be able to see it in AD. We have gone through several experiences why it wasn't showing at some point in time. We didn't know it's a simple check. Now we know. G.I. Joe, known as half the battle. It's great. So anyway, so you want to make sure Windows Process Activation Service is checked, and I believe that's it, out of the features. So you want to hit Next. All right, to continue, we're going to install a SQL Server on the same server, the MBAM server. However, you know, in your typical environment at our department, it'll be installed, of course, then it'll be installed on the database server. But right now, we're not worried about that. We'll worry about that later. What we're actually running, it requires SQL Server 2008 R2 or better. I'm not even sure if there's another one out yet, but and it's pretty much general. You want to install everything default instance, give it a password, blah 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 blah. We'll continue when we get there. Right, we got to the point where it finally got to the setting up the stage or the setup stage for SQL Server 2008 R2. So what you want to do is keep it on SQL Server feature installation. You know the best settings for you. You want to make sure database engine is selected, analyst report service, and reporting services. Believe it or not, MBAM uses all those features, as well as full text. Alright, so I put a check mark, full text, reporting, all that stuff, blah blah blah. Management tools, basic and complete. Now this is 2008 version instead of 2005. The advantage of 2008, you have easy scripts that you just simply right click and then go, select the first 100 rows instead of typing it all in, unlike you had to do in 2005. So we're gonna go to hit next. Please wait. Please wait. Please pause. You have an option to do a named instance. I'm just going to do the default instance, which is MS SQL Server. And it's going to have the default location. Hit next. And then select next again. And I'm just setting up an account, the default account that we added already, which is of course the main account, administrator. And this is, y'all can do whatever y'all want with that one. Let's see, we want to have SQL Server browser enabled because it won't. I have it automatic. It won't install. It'll give you an error when you install MBAM server. So you have an option to turn it on now. You can turn it on later, whichever one you want to do. That's up to you. Next, and add current user. I also want to add the local administrator. Just hit local. That's all. And local administrator. And then next. And you want to go with the default mode. Next. Next. Alright, now we're getting ready to install. Okay, in other words, SQL Server 2008 R2 has completed. has completed installation. Now, before we actually install MBAM, we have to install another prereq. And that is coming from this CD. It's called BitLocker Docs. There's approximately 3 copies of them. We also have it on a jump drive. Can you see it? BitLocker Docs. I'm going to stick this CD in. Sorry for the big head. I'm working on that. And we have to run a couple documents, a couple of things in here. And what we're doing now is setting up the encryption master key. When you install SQL Server, it actually, how can I say, it gives some type of key automatically according to the machine you install it, which helps encrypt already. But this master key will basically, it's pretty much encryption key. That's the answer. Double click this. And we have a list of information here. We have DB command, and we have firewall exception. All these things we're actually going to Alright, so where we left off is we got to run a T-SQL command in the database in order for you to create the master encryption key. This is what the T-SQL looks like. Use master, create master key encryption by password, blah, 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 equals whatever you want to do. However, we're not going to tell you what our password is. We don't want to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and just set it up right now, and I'm going to hit pause for me. Alright, I open up SQL Management Studio. This is where I'm going to run that T-SQL command. That command is going to create that master key. Take a look at the databases you currently have. These are default databases. You're going to notice that when we install MBAM, it's going to install 4 other databases. Run a command, you should simply see command completed successfully. That's how you know the master key has been created. Alright, next thing you want to do is now install MBAM. And here we have MDOP, which is part of the entire suite. And we want to select MBAM out of there. And we'll find this down here. BitLocker, Microsoft BitLocker Administration and Monitoring. You have different options here. This is the client. This is officially what will be pushed out on the user's machine or the client machine. We actually have a copy of that on the BitLocker docs. So we want to install the 64-bit because we currently run a 64-bit operating system as well as server. And here we have it here. We're currently not connected to the internet, so we're going to uncheck that and click start. And we're going to hit accept and then hit next. And here in this particular environment, we're going to have all these features installed on one. However, there's a video on how to separate them in 3 different servers. We're not going to do that here right now. And our live version, I think we're actually going to have everything set up on the server except, of course, SQL Server 2008. That's in a different environment. We still have to upgrade to that because we're currently on 2005. So you want to hit next. And it's checking prereqs, and we'll see if we forgot anything. We'll see. Let us know. Alright, now, you see it looks like the prereqs did pass. What you see here in this red is encrypted database communication, enabled, blah, 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 blah. This is basically, that's if we install a certificate on DHCP, or on a DC, which we did not. But in a typical environment, we would have one, but we still would want to go with this option. That's just an option we can add to it later, where it just causes a lot more issues when you have a certificate on the machine. That's just another feature you can add. But it can be a pain. Go ahead next. And these are the instances of the whatever it'll install the MBAM server. It also tells you what database name, so that's going to be another database name. The next one is going to be, that's the data recovery. This is going to be compliance, as it says right here, MBAM compliance. Oh, I guess I must not have turned it on. And it says, you see this error right here? SQL Server agent must be running and set for auto start on its selected instance of SQL Server. So, this is what you want to do. You want to type in here. Alright, now, of course, that error, what we want to do to fix that error is simply go to the search bar and type in services, open up services. Then we want to go down and find the SQL Server, our SQL Server agent, and we see we have it as manual. Right click it, then go to properties, sit there and change it to automatic. Do not use delay start. Hit start, and it should say starting now, and it is starting. Give it a second. Alright, then we hit apply, then OK, and then it has an automatic. This should fix that error, so we're going to go next. And there it goes, the error went away. So we want to apply this to the domain username. Well, I mean, we just use an administrator because we didn't make another username. Sorry about that. And it's test.administrator. Give it a name. This is actually what you're going to have to put in or input on each time you access the website, which is, the MBAM server website. Not the MBAM server, but the MBAM tool website. And you have to input this information here in order to access it. This is the password it's going to set for that particular proxy. So you want to hit next. And that's for reporting services. And we're going to put it on, we can't put it on port 80 because port 80 is used by something else. We're going to just call it 81. And ignore this. This is just an optional name you can give the host. And then hit next. And do not use Microsoft Update. There, of course, are updates, we don't have to connect to the internet anyway. And then install. And here we go. Recording? No, it's not. I didn't hear the beep. Alright, now it has completely installed the application. And it says setup completed successfully. MBAM features you have selected, blah, blah, blah. Here, you actually will click on it, and it takes you out to the website and how to manage user roles. Then you can have an option here that says plan group policies, deploy MBAM client. We're actually going to use GP to deploy an MBAM client for right now. Of course, at the end of everything, we're probably going to use SCCM, which is a better way of deploying it. It's a lot quicker. And it also tells you and get started with MBAM features. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. And this thing has actually been installed already. Let's give it some time to close. You will actually have to install the MBAM server after you're installing this anyway. But I'm going to show you where it installs. Of course, I've showed you before. It goes to seed, and you go into Malta, MBAM solution. And then there's your pretty much your three sites. IIS has been modified in order to suit for MBAM, and we are going to restart right now. Alright, now we're on the straightaway, pretty much, to get everything done before we get to GP, group policy. We actually have to run 5 different things in order to make sure that this thing actually works in AD, and basically copies up or backs up to AD. We're going to, of course, need our handy-dandy BitLocker docs. We're going to stick this in this CD player. Take out the MBAM. And first, let me show you what happened with the database. It created 2 different databases. Or, not database, yeah, 2 different databases. MBAM compliance status, MBAM recovery, and hardware. This has more tables inside, of course, and this is all related to MBAM. And let's take a look at the GUI, which is IIS.
It's preparing to copy, so I'm going to leave it for a minute.
And we want to go into sites, and we're going to highlight BitLocker. And remember, we set it to browse, to port 81. And let's see if this site pulls up. Hopefully it pulls right up. It should, a proxy should come up in a moment and ask for my information. And I want to get this out of the way. Sorry about that. And close out of that. And it looks like we have it all up and running. And here's our proxy. And we currently don't have any hardware in here yet, so it should be blank. Okay. Yep, it is blank. Alright, next. What we want to do now is we want to go to our disk. And after MBAM installs, it literally creates some ADMX files under policy definitions. And we actually want to remove these because we're actually going to move it in there ourselves. We made a modification to it to allow it to look back at it every minute rather than a minimum of 90 minutes. Is that correct? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, let's check. And so we're going to move over to the left. And we are going to highlight this one. Highlight this one, and this one. Copy. We're going to paste it in the machine. And we're going to replace that one. And we want to do the same thing with the ADML. Copy. Paste. Paste. All right. And we'll get to what we actually changed later of why we did it this way. And I'll explain once we get there. Which is further along the line. All right. Now we have some things that must be run. Must run. And we're getting to it right now. All right, now we are here again. And we currently, I think I showed you before that we made it to configuring AD to backing up BitLocker and TPM recovery information. What does the company have to change? One thing we have to make a change to is AD. Now, this first script right here will do it automatically, which is nice. You don't have to worry about it. There's more information inside the script. You can right-click and go to edit and see exactly what it does, but I'm not going to sit there and go through it. So what you want to do is simply double-click the script. And it tells you that it's accessing the object, and it was successful. Now, what it do? Well, basically, it adds a ACE, access control entry, so that backing up the TPM recovery information is possible. That's exactly what it does. If you have any more questions, don't ask me. Alright, next step, after we add the ACEs, write the ACEs, we actually have a TPM schema extension. This is basically builds a schema in AD. It technically requires for you to run a huge command, but we actually saved it, so we don't have to keep typing it in. I apologize. Good thing is we have it saved. Basically, what you want to do is that just simply copy the whole folder. You don't have to do it this way. You can do whatever you want, but this is how I want to do it because it's easier for me. If you don't like it, I'm sorry. So go to here. Okay, where we left off after we had to rewind for about 5 minutes. I created a folder. I dropped that folder from the CD and then, of course, renamed it to AD, which makes it easier for me to run the command. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. Still wrong, huh? Alright, here we have the script right here. Now I'm going to go back to the CD and then pull that script up. And here we have here. And we want to change this to, this right here you want to modify to whatever your domain controller is. See, ours is test.com now. It used to be DOD, so I have to change that to COM. Copy, minimize, go to here, and then paste, and then enter, and then loading entries. Nice. So this pretty much, of course, made a schema change, and it tells you all the changes that it has made. I actually have a printout of it, and I can give it to you guys when you need it. 15 entries modified successfully. That means it's a successful completion, I believe. Alright, next thing we're going to do now is we want to test to make sure everything is functioning correctly. And we actually have the test. We can go to here. And we can go to list ACEs. And it says access an object, which is test.com. Okay, ACE flags 10, ACE type 5, flags again is 3, access mask is 32, and object type blah 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 blah. Inherited object, okay. Trustee, we want to make sure self is there, and then okay. If I want AC, that's right. Which is great. That means it's actually running correctly, according to what the instructions say. If you got an error at that point, then there's something wrong, and you must fix. These other ones most likely will give an error because this is a test to see after you have a machine encrypted, but we don't really need to test that, but I'm going to run it anyway, but it's not going to really do anything for right now. It's going to give you an error. That doesn't mean anything because, of course, TPM ownership file is not going to be on for your server. And this is not going to be on because, what? Your server is not encrypted. And I believe now we have made changes to AD and the MBAM server. And now we're on group policy. Big step for us. Big stepping stone. Took us a while to figure this all out. What I have to do is create a user. I'm just going to call it MBAM. And that user, that's going to be applied to the particular group policy object that we're going to create later. And here's that new user. First name, me. And down. And I'm going to hit enter. Password never expires. This account will never be used as a login account. And we're going to add this account, or it's going to be a member of domain admins. Must be in order for it to automatically install the MBAM client. first option. We're going to go to new, we're going to create a new object, and I'm going to call it MBAM. I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to edit. We're going to set up the default policies for MBAM first, and then we're going to get to the more in-depth ones. Our first thing is actually to set up BitLocker drive encryption. You want to sit there and highlight first options, make this a little bit larger so we can see it. And we're going to set up a few options here, and this will be effective for our department. Double click the first one, and we want to say enable and require BitLocker to back up to AD. Of course, we need that. Scroll down to the bottom, make sure everything else is there. Hit apply, and then we're not going to configure the next setting, nor the next setting. However, we're going to configure this setting, which we want it to be 256. I guess there's more encryption instead of 128. And we're going to configure the next setting, which is this one here. And our identification field is going to be development.dod. This will help you if we're going to set up DRA. Right now, we're not setting it up. We're not going to worry about it for right now. That's just in the future. Apply. Those only settings we set right here. And then we're going to go to fixed data drive information. And then in the fixed data drive, we are going to configure the second option, not the first one. So we don't want anything to do with smart cards unless you want to. That's up to you. Let's see, deny write access. Yes, we want that. So we don't want them to have a hard drive on there and put wherever they want it, but not be encrypted. And then we're going to go to skip the next option. And that's for earlier versions, which is using FAT format. We're going to enable this one. And we're not going to require a password, but we're going to have allow password simplicity. We can apply, and then the next one is enable, omit recovery options from BitLocker setup wizard. We don't want to have options to do anything else. And do not enable BitLocker until recovery information is stored. We want to make sure it doesn't encrypt it without us backing up to AD. We also want to uncheck allow data recovery agent. That's the DRA I was referring to. We're not going to worry about that for right now, just in the future. We hit apply, and then now we're going to go off to the operating system drives. And this option, we're going to go to enable. We're going to say, because we know all our newer machines are compatible with TPM 5700 and above. We're not going to worry about 5100s or 5000s. And then the laptops is all going to be the 8530s and 8530p and up. And those will all be fine. Because you got to make sure you set up TPM before you do anything else. And we're going to show you that as well. We're going to go to allow TPM. No, I'm sorry, require TPM. Do not allow startup pin, because we don't want to have somebody putting the pin in each time they log into the machine or turn it on. Do not allow startup pin. Do not allow startup pin. And then hit apply. The next one is going to be enabled. Uncheck that. Require startup key with TPM. Do not require startup key with TPM. Apply. And then next. Not configured for the next one. And a minimum of 4 characters for the next one enabled. Boom. Next. And we're going to enable this one, of course. And uncheck that one. Same instance. You want to make sure it's recovered to AD. Hit apply. And then next, we're going to ignore the last one and OK. Now, I don't think we actually have anything set up for removable data drive, so that's only if you want to select it or set it up, that's fine. Our next area is MDOP, or MBAM, and this is where everything gets started pretty much. It's a little bit different. You want to make sure that's enabled. And the first and the last one is enabled. Looks right. Client management. This is the configure MBAM services. Now, this has to be set up correctly, or it will not be reported back to the database or back to the server. That is the recovery key. You want to make sure it is called exactly what your machine name is, and I'm going to show you how to do that. And you also want to make sure the right port. So you want to enable this, and then simply copy everything from here to here for right now. And same thing for this one, which is the compliance status report. And before we make changes to the AD or to the ADMX file, we weren't able to make a one option here. So that's a good thing for right now. We're still researching to see it will affect how can I say, traffic, because they'll keep looking back at AD or looking back through our network. Now, this here actually requires one more piece, and then that is the machine name, or the I think it's the machine name, or machine name and the port name. So what you want to do is go to here, or go back to your MBAM server, and we call this MBAM server. So what it should be is http://MBAM server, and we're using port 81, and do the same thing down here. Now this will allow it to report back to basically back to the MBAM server, and it will basically put the information in the database. So we're going to test it to make sure it works. And make sure MBAM is running correctly. Oh, we want the whole address. Copy. Paste. You should get some type of proxy asking for your username and password. We'll see what happens. And it does. And that's how you know it works. You get that. And then we're going to check this other one. Now, if you had a certificate, you use HTTPS instead of just HTTP colon. But we don't have a certificate, so we're not going to worry about that for right now. And there we go. We're all set. We know it's going to read back to the MBAM management system. Alright, so we're in client management. Now we want to say allow compatibility checking, yes. And then hit apply. Hit pause real quick. Alright, now we're going to fix data drive. This stuff should already be set up for you because of what we set up previously. And it should be, we actually forgot one of them, which is the first one. And we want to set this to auto unlock fix data drive. So this will basically allow it to be unlocked. However, if somebody else doesn't have the ability to log in, they won't be able to see the information. Sorry, that's my phone. And then we're going to go down to operating system drive. We want to make sure the first one is enabled. And enable this. TPM, and this TPM only, I believe. Yeah, TPM only. And hit apply. Okay. That should be set up correctly. It is. And everything else is pretty much the same. Removable drive, we're going to say no to that because we didn't set up the other one. But you can if you want to, that's up to you. Now, the next thing is actually for TPM, to back up TPM to AD. There's actually a setting to turn on, which is kind of weird. And it's under a different location. It's under System, and then you want to go down to Trusted Platform Module Services. And then turn up TPM to back up to AD. So that's it. Now you have the general GP information all set up for you. The other thing is fairly, it's not really hard, but it's something we had to get away in order for it to install the client when the user logs in or whatever. And we have a script that we have on our handy dandy disk. I'm gonna show it to you. Maybe I am. And this handy dandy disk, give it a moment. It's going to have all the information that you need for this whole install, including this little script that I had for MBAM in order to install correctly and to hurry up and pass, how can I say, hurry up and pass the exemption and then disable the machine verification, all that other stuff. These keys have to be put in and set in the registry for each client. There's a script that I have here that will run when the user logs in or when the machine turns on. And you can actually put this in one of your current scripts, whatever you want to do with that. I'm not sure if you have it in PowerShell. Probably do. Just convert this over to whatever you have it to. This is actually written in VBS. Then you have another thing we have to do. And here's the firewall exception. I wanted to try this again, and I would put an exception for the particular application to be ignored, to not be blocked for the client side, and that's going to be controlled through root policy. But I mean, I'm not, for some reason we couldn't get it to work last time, but who says it's not going to work this time? Alright, so here's the client, and then you want to go down to the policy of which is going to be installing the client, which is going to be this one. We'll go to software installations, and we're going to go to new package. But before we get that far, let's go ahead and then set up the login script that we have here. Where is that thing? I'm going to add some files here. We can call this one log in, log on, edit, browse the script. It's going to be on the disk. Now we're going to go back to here. Paste, apply. Here, scroll. ahead and just drop this in here. GP. We're going to go to installation, software installation, new package, and we want to make sure this thing has a network. Network share. Over here. And go ahead, okay. Couple seconds. Should populate in 2 seconds. 1, 2. 3, 2, 1. There we go. See? Then what we want to do now, okay, there it is. We're going to have to install this MBAM. Then we also have a script here that will run to make it, how can I say, force it to hurry up and then set up or start encrypting. And I mean, I kind of hit it for both ends. You can do however you want. I did a startup one too. But that's whatever you want to do. Whatever script you have or normally use, it'll work. I have it going from both ends. Alright, now those scripts are going to run. Now we want to do the the firewall exception too. And I think that's under domain profile. Allow local programming exceptions. No, that's the wrong one. I'm actually looking for that now, so give me a second. Alright, welcome back. It may seem like I haven't been gone that long, but I have. So what we're doing now is making a firewall exception to allow the ability for the program or the client to launch on the individual system without being blocked by the firewall. Because actually the firewall does block it. There's no guarantee that this actually will work. For some reason I didn't get it to work last time, but we'll try it again. And what you want to do is go to the computer configuration, and then policy, and then network connections, and then domain profile or standard profile, whatever you want to do, and then define inbound program and exceptions. Enable this, and then go to show, and go over to a handy CD. I can't remember what it's called again.
BitLocker Docs.
My man. BitLocker Docs. That's what it's called. And you want to double click the firewall exception. text box or text file here. You just want to simply highlight all this because this is exactly where the MBAM client is going to be installed. Pause that. To continue, we're going to add this particular text file here, and based on what your DC or what your MBAM server is, will change this IP here or this one here. And this is nothing but a text information. This will tell you where the program is located. Blah blah blah. I'm gonna hit copy, and I'm going to paste this in here. And that's it. We'll click OK. We'll hit apply. And then this is going to be applied to everybody. Because I think that, yeah, this is on the default domain policy. I'm not sure what you guys are going to do, but you do whatever you want to do. Okay, and I think I've added that. We want to hit this and enforce it. And we also want to move this upon MBAM. And click OK, and we want to enforce this as well. And then now this is going to be applied to the OU MBAM, and we want to highlight MBAM and then add that account that we created earlier, which is MBAM. And there we go. It's called Y and Me. Very interesting. And I think we're just about done. I think we're ready to start testing and adding the machine to the network, which you have a machine laying over here. And we'll be with you in a couple moments. Alright, now we are actually on the Windows 7 machine. This is the machine we're actually going to throw on the network in order for you to see GP actually kicking in. Not GP, but MBAM actually kicking in. Hopefully, it'll kick in. Let's make sure we got the right IP address, and we do. And we're going to make this machine join to the network. Our network's called test. Take a couple moments, bear with me a moment. Alright, welcome to test domain. Excellent. It's going to force me to restart soon. We're going to say later. We are going to allow remote desktop and apply. And let's get this show on the road. What you see here is that this is actually starting to install MBAM, hopefully. Well, probably, I'm not sure if it actually will. We'll see right now. I might have to do a GP update. I'm going to check it right now. Okay. Oh, yeah. We had to put on the domain. I forgot about that. There we go. First thing we'll do is see if actually GP is actually working. I'm going to check the registry to see if it created those registry keys. And we're in there. And we're going to here. And BitLocker has it installed, so let's see if registries were created. Okay, it's not here yet. So we probably have to do a GP update, which I'm going to do now. Oh, this is actually not going to work yet because we haven't put the machine into the OU. So let's actually go ahead and do that. now that it's on the network, we're going to highlight the computer OU, and there is BitLock, and we're going to move this into the MBAM OU, and there he is right there, he or she. And we're going to switch back to the machine, do a GP update force. It should tell us to restart. Or log off. Might be a restart, we'll see. And a restart is required. Let's go ahead and restart it. And we have a please wait. That means it's probably installing. We hope it is. And it's actually adding some of the group policy settings we set earlier based on this time here. So give us a couple moments, see what happens. We're going to check this out. So let's take a look at control panel. And there we have BitLocker drive encryptions, or BitLocker encryption options. That's MBAM client, so it has installed, so we know GP is pushing it out. And we're going to check the registry to make sure it is set up correctly. And we want to go down to local machine, software. Then we want to go to MBAM here. Here it is. And that looks like it's set up correctly as well. Now we're going to wait to see if it will kick in. We're going to look at event viewer to see if it's being blocked or anything like that. Alright. Nothing yet. We're going to check something else. I'm going to go ahead and check the MBAM client to see if it actually is showing yet. Bear with me a moment. I'm going to check out the hardware. And it's not here just yet, so there's a good chance that the firewall is blocking it again. So I'm going to check this one more time to see if it's being blocked. I think it's the firewall is actually blocking it again. Let's make sure we have it running here. And it's running. And this is another reason why you can tell. See, it's at 940. Technically, I think it should be around 1300. So I'm going to see if I can unblock it. I'm going to show you a way that I found a way to making it work by just unblocking the typical. How can I say that application without turning the whole firewall off? We're going to create a new rule. Well, see, the rule's already here. I don't know why it's not working. Alright, what I ended up having to do is add the firewall exception manually. And I want to see if it actually works, so give me a couple moments. I want to see what it's given here. I can check to see if it actually, I can see here it's pushing 1900 rather than 800. We want to see if it's actually trying to reach out to the MBAM server. And there's more than one way we can do that. We can go here. It doesn't look like it is yet. Or we can check the machine to see what it says in the event viewer. And now it's pushing 3200, so I'm really guessing it's going to kick in. Now it's pushing out some information out to MBAM server. That's what I'm thinking. And we're going to see here. Okay, we have an error here, so let's take a look at the error. It says hardware exemption check failed. Phone received from remote endpoint encryption. Let's take a look and see if that's connected to MBAM server. And it's here. So that error that thing is talking about, because it's showing this status is unknown. Even though we manually change it, we could wait approximately 5 more minutes and it will still kick in. But what I'm going to do now is just basically make it compatible and it'll eventually kick in here. Well, see, this is what happens. If a modification was changed, what you have to do is make a group policy update, and I'm gonna do that actually right now. You see, this value right here should be 2 instead of 0. That's why it hasn't started yet. So I'm gonna go to GP update and then force, and it should change that value to 2 instead of a 0. What happens is that when you install a BitLocker client, sometimes it will basically override your policy and change it back to 0, which is not compatible. And that's what that error is you're seeing in the firewall. So give it a couple seconds, it should change it back. And it didn't for some reason. That's weird. Well, we're just going to manually do it for right now. Unless we have it set to apply only once, which I'm not really sure. So we're just going to change this to a 2. Okay it. Then we're going to go to services. This is something you might have to do if it doesn't work how you want it to work. Then you want to go down to BitLocker endpoint encryption. And just restart it. We're going to take a look at the event viewer. And it says hardware status is unknown. So give it a couple seconds. I'm just gonna go ahead and just make this. I'm gonna go to check here and just make it compatible. Because this is all the delay here is not making it compatible. Put a check in here to highlight the equipment, and then go to make it compatible. And it should show on the right compatible, and BitLocker should start kicking in, which I can see it's about to do now in a minute. It jumped to 29, and then here comes BitLocker. There we go. Alright, this is basically BitLocker kicking in and letting you know that you have to start encrypting the hard drive since you're part of a group. since you're part of a domain that requires for your hard drive to be encrypted. It also is noticing that you have two partitions, which this local one here, and I'm going to do a quick format real quick. Okay. Just going to show you a couple things here. And I want you to notice that I shouldn't be able to create anything in here. And you see it says unable to create photo on because we blocked that in group policy earlier. So what you want to do now is hit close, and then we're going to go ahead and continue with encrypting the hard drive. And we can either postpone or start. So what we're going to do now is start it. It's going to tell you to restart, so let's go ahead and restart. Alright, you're going to hit F1 here. That's turning on TPM, I believe. So now TPM is starting to be backed up, or it's going to be backed up to AD. It's going to reset a couple times, or several times. There's another reset. And we're back on starting Windows. Now let me remind you that once you get this thing set up, like to one instance, see I just showed you encryption is needed. Once you set it up there, you don't have to worry about any other machine. You simply connect it to it, connect it to the domain, and it's just kick in automatically. All right. Then we're going to log in. It should say, welcome back. Let's see if it tells us that. You going to tell me welcome? Maybe. Maybe not. You're thinking about it? Bear with me, it's a very slow machine. Very slow machine. And welcome back. You're going to hit next. And we are going to create a password, which we're making the admin password. And create password. And now it's encrypted. So let's see. What we have done is we set up GP, and we got it to automatically kick in to install group, to install BitLocker client and start encrypting. We also went through some troubleshooting issues, or issues with the firewall blocking it. So once it's set up correctly, and you have the firewall exception set up correctly, I thought I did. For some reason, it still didn't work. I had to manually unblock it and restart. I also showed you how to troubleshoot issues like that to see exactly what's going on. By looking at how much memory it's using. So now we're going to look at what it shows in MBAM. First thing first, we're going to look at the DC, and now we should have some information for the BitLock object, and we're going to see if it has a recovery key, which it does. So this key, of course, one is for the recovery password for TPM, which is the first one. Then the other one's for the hard drive. That's what it's going to look like in AD, and this is backed up here. So once you delete this object, you're not going to see it in AD anymore. However, you still have it on the SQL database. Now let's take a look at BitLocker encryption, and encryption, our MBAM that is. We're going to look at some of the system. It might not be able to pull up any information yet because it's so early. Let's see if I can find something. Come on. this. Should turn that off actually, but whatever. Looks like there's nothing in here just yet, so I'm gonna try to look it up by name. And here we have the machine. It tells you all the stuff that's required for it. Cipher's check 256, like we said. Operating system is Windows 7, encryption required. It tells you that fixed drive encryption required. Removable data, we didn't set that at all. Operating system drives encryption required and with TPM. And let's see, it tells you here that it's encrypted now for both the drives that it has on there, the fixed data drive and the operating system drive, which the OS is installed on. So it's pretty much letting you know that it's actually working. And what we want to do now is check the database. We're going to look at SQL database to see what information we can pull in there. And while we're pulling this up, we're going to go back to BitLocker endpoint encryption and see other features we can do. Drive recovery. We can. I'm just going to do a simple thing here. And what we're doing now is I'm going to do like a dummy reset. Let's say somehow that information's got lost or whatever. So I can go in here and take a look at the hashed out TPM password. Pretty much. So we know that works. And we're going to go look at the SQL database. And we're going to see hardware recovery, tables. And here we go. We have the 2 recovery keys in the database. So when you delete the object, at least you still have it on a SQL server. So there's still 2 places of where it's being stored. We have a laptop here. We're going to join it to the network. As you can see, we currently have a assigned IP address that we got from the DC. And what we're going to do now is join it to the network. And the domain is test. And we're going to restart. Go ahead and pause it. Alright, now we're going to look at the server. Since we joined this machine to the network, it should show here. And we're going to do a refresh. And then here it is. So what we want to do is actually move that machine over to the MBAM OU. We're going to do that in just 1 second. we're gonna simply go here. Move. To MBAM OU. And now we're back in the machine. Now we have this machine into the proper OU, the MBAM OU. We're going to do a GP update force. And this should force a restart. There's some things that have to run or be applied when the machine starts up. And that's how they computer configuration, GP. And we're going to hit yes. We're going to do a manual restart. Alright, now we have the laptop back on again. It's restarting. We're going to notice a please wait sign. That's going to be telling you that it's installing the MBAM client. And hopefully it should kick right in. We'll see if it works. Alright, now I'm going to sign in. And we're going to take a look at the, yep, it installed MBAM. Give it a couple more moments, see if a BitLocker will kick in for us, or if the firewall is blocking it. We're checking that right now. See if the registry is correct. Yeah, see, group policy was only applied once, and this thing overrated again. So we gotta find us a way to have it. This is something you guys have to do. Have it applied. You want to put it on manual. Push it down. You wanna have it applied more than once. I believe, in order for it to work. I don't know why it's. I don't know. Hold on a second. Alright, basically, what happened is that if you see here, the default domain policy, we actually placed it in the wrong spot. What it should be here, what should have happened here is the installation of MBAM. We actually put the installation of MBAM on the MBAM group policy. It doesn't really matter either way. It's gonna get the policy, but you guys know what you're doing. So what should be done here is installation of MBAM client nearly on just about every machine that has default policy. That's if you want to do it that way. It's really up to you. The application is not really that large, but it will help to have the client installed on every machine. So just in case, if BitLocker is needed, it'll be applied easily. The OU should get this group object, which basically makes changes to the registry and all the other features that are applied to MBAM. That's the way it should have gone, and it'll be easier, so you don't have to worry about overriding the old policy. See, what's happening is when you set the policy for the registry here, which is automatically there when you join the machines in the network, and then you move it over to the OU, once MBAM's installed, it will literally override and change the registry. So you want it the opposite way. You want the registry to be modified here and not over here. Okay, go back to the machine. Alright, after I made that change to 2, which normally group policy would change it, this thing came up no more than a minute later. So it's already starting to encrypt. So remember, in order for it to function properly, have the MBAM client installed first. That should be the first policy it's going to receive. And then whatever policy afterwards can modify the registry. Or you can have it set to basically continue to apply each time the user logs in. Your choice. So we're going to hit start here. And we I actually forgot to reset. This is what happens when you forget to reset the TPM. It doesn't even ask for you to restart. If you hit start and it doesn't ask for you to restart, then you know the TPM has not been reset. The downfall of that, the TPM will not be backed up to AD. So you will never be able to back up the TPM for this machine unless you clear TPM. And that's why this is actually not going to work. However, what is backed up to AD is the drive encryption, which I'm going to show you right now. Alright, check this out. Here we have, remember there's 2 machines, and one machine over here that's actually working, and you see how this one has 2 different encryption keys. One is TPM, the other one is the drive encryption. Now let's take a look at this one. This one just has 1, and that's just the drive encryption. So that's an example of if you don't back it to TPM, it won't show there. That's pretty much it. That's the end of our training. Wait a minute. Okay, this is an example of what the person's going to see. They're going to hit enter, and if they have a hard drive that's already encrypted by, I don't know, another machine, they're going to see that original screen. And this is where it's going to be asking for you to put in an encryption key.
Recovery key.
A recovery key. My man. Got me right there. And then where you're going to find that is here. Go ahead.
In order to In order to recover the recovery key from Active Directory, you would go to BitLocker Recovery and find a recovery key.
And this is the key that you want to put in that black screen, right?
Yeah, it's on the laptop.
Alright. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at that key, and now we're going to look down. Oh, we're looking at the laptop. And remember how we saw the information in AD? We're going to go ahead and put this in the screen here. And he's looking directly off of AD right now. And we got it successfully. That's what it's going to look like if somebody were to put a hard drive that's already encrypted. You have to put that information in. Now, do we know if you have to put that in each time? Most likely, because TPM is all messed up. What I believe you have to do is clear TPM and add it back again, and then once you clear TPM, it'll automatically be backed up to AD. Once you do that, he shouldn't have to, or the person should not have to put the recover key again. To the machine, it should pop up and say your TPM is off, and that's how we have it set up in group policy that your TPM must be on. Go ahead and click on restart, and it's going to turn on TPM again. Now it should be backed up to AD. Right, now we're going to create a manual password. Go ahead. I'm going to put the admin password. And we're going to click initialize. And then close. Alright, TPM should now be back up to AD. Now click the arrow on the bottom right. Where is that? BitLocker and driving encryption thing. Go to start. Inform you that it would never, go ahead and click on that. It will never pretty much stop encrypting once you keep restarting. It'll just start back up. However, if it doesn't show at the bottom of the screen, you have to do what you normally do in Safe Boot, and that's a simple log off and log back in. I think that's more of a Windows 7 issue. Now we're going to look at AD to see if it backed up to TPM. In summary, what we have come up with, and then the reason why we're using BitLocker drive encryption, is of course we're trying to move away from Safe Boot. Safe Boot tends to take at least 20 minutes minimum for password reset and sync total. With BitLocker encryption, endpoint encryption, everything is tied to AD. As long as they have a connection, they'll be fine. Now, that's the main reason why we're using the BitLocker. And also, there's like a management system that can easily reset the drive encryption. But there are a lot of stimulations that you must make sure is taken care of first. First things first, before you even image any machine that you're going to have BitLocker attached to it, TPM must be cleared. It must show initialized. If you do not do that, it's not going to work properly. It'll back up the drive encryption, but your TPM will not be backed up. If you ever were to clear a TPM to any machine, it will mess up the, how can I say, you get this screen here, which is the BitLocker drive encryption recovery key. And they'll have to put that in each time unless they clear both the TPM as well as decrypt the hard drive. That's the only way you get it back into sync, so when they just log in, it just goes right in. In summary, it's a lot faster. It encrypts a lot faster. It has the same capability of 256 encryption, just like Safe Boot, but it'll be taken care of in half the time. So there'll no longer be 20-minute calls for a password reset for somebody in a regional office, of which they can simply hit Control, Delete, and change password. That's it. No syncing required. To note that what's kind of fantastic about MBAM is that it can be integrated to MDT. The sooner we have this thing rolled out, the sooner I can have it integrated with MDT. And it'll all be an all-in-one process. And it'll be taken care of and encrypted by the time the machine is given to the user. Come on, man, say something. Think of something, just say something. Sing the song with me.
It's around a whole hour and a half video.
Pretty much.
Because we almost at the hour mark, right?
You said hour 6. Yeah.
Hour 6?
Yeah, how long does this
man,
take?
You might want to check to make sure we ain't recording up nothing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We'll just leave it like this, man. It's good.